belief, money calls it. My music, if I could build a castle from a single grain of sand, I would roll the boogie in the palm of my hand to give you super groovalistic pro-funkification from KUXL Radio, #1 in the nation, taking you off into the sound of the Super DJ theme song, Ohio Players Contradiction. We call it the Hoochie Coo.
Yeah, yes. If you talking about music in the 70s and 80s, in the early 80s, there was only one super DJ, and that was Kyle Ray. I am so fortunate and honored to be in a position of doing my first podcast. Thank you, Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder, to give us that time so we can be in a position of opening this dialogue up. It's so important because sometimes we don't know the root of our tree, and our tree is so much fruit that we have to be in a position of sharing this. So I am so honored and so pleased that Joe Ray is here to talk about his brother. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to hear your voice and hear the truth.
Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate you having me on your first podcast. Congratulations to you. It's a pleasure to be here. Absolutely.
Thank you. I mean, my thing is that, when I first got here, I was recruited by the University of Minnesota. And what was so crazy about it is that Tony Dungy was recruiting me. And he's the first black coach who won the Super Bowl. And so for me, having him, and then from there we went across the street, and I saw this charismatic, dynamic, beautiful brother. I mean, it was on the DJ, and man, and just everybody was just like a magnet towards him. And I looked at Tony. I said, "Who is this?" He says, "It's Kyle Ray." I said, "Man, this boy is bad." And so, I saw him, and then when I got to the U, I started to meet with the brother, and he was just a down-earth, strong personality. People loved him. He was a magnet. He brought in folks, and he served our community. Whatever he was trying to do, he did it. And I want to be in a position of just asking you, tell me just a little, not a little, you got to give me the whole game plan, brother. Tell me exactly what was going on. He was born in April 1957.
That's correct, yep.
And then from that, he was born here in Minneapolis.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kyle and I were real close. We were 15 months apart. And me being the older brother, I always had to remind Kyle about the hierarchy. I'm the oldest, okay? So you can't mess with me. But he always tried. I give him credit. He always was trying to up me, one-up me. But no, Kyle at a very young age was very talented. We both grew up in North Minneapolis. We both graduated from North High School. As a matter of fact, myself, I went to Catholic school growing up. There was a Catholic school called St. Joseph. And I went there for 8 years, then ended up going to De La Salle for 3 years. I played football, basketball. And then I wanted to graduate with my friends in the community who I grew up with. So I went to North for my last 2 years of high school. Kyle, on the other hand, he had went to Ascension for a few years and played football, played sports. Very good athlete, actually. Then he ended up going to Lincoln, and then from Lincoln he went to North. So, but he was a very good athlete, good person, very intelligent. But he always wanted to be more, and I think that's what got him into the public eye as far as wanting to be a DJ, wanting to be on the radio, wanting to go to clubs. He's a very good-looking guy. I was jealous, okay?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, was you jealous?
Oh, my
And did
God.
everybody think that you was younger than he was?
Everybody thought that I was a younger brother. They did. Because, he was out in the limelight, And he loved it, though. He started at KUXL with Farrell Black, Thornton Jones. And from there, he went to KBEM Radio. When he went to North, I graduated from the old North High School, and then the new North High School opened in 74, I believe it was. So in 74 and 75, Kyle was the radio at KBEM Radio. That's what got him started in the radio, and probably got him started into wanting to be a DJ. And, you know, as he went through that, he ended up doing shows, opening acts. He emceed a lot of the top acts that came into town. He would drive me crazy at home because he'd be reading the paper out loud, trying to rhyme. And I'd be like, Kyle, come on, man, stop it. You know, grab the paper from him, just, you know. But, you know, he worked very hard at his craft. You know, he was really an artist.
Joe, when did you realize that this man, your brother, had a gift?
When I saw him at the club, really. I mean, he was a DJ, but you can't see him, you know, but he had a great voice. But when you see him at the club, it was like, I think The Taste. There were a few other clubs that he DJ'd at. But when you saw him and saw the energy that he had and how he got the people to get up and move, it was just astounding. And nobody sounded like him. You know, there was no DJ that sounded like Kyle Ray. That's why they called him the super DJ, because everything he did was just so flamboyant and big. You know, he had a big personality, but he got the people to partying and dancing, and he just carried that through all the time he was DJing and brought it to the radio also. So, yeah, it was just amazing. And that's when I noticed, you know what, he has something special. And I just felt, you know, he's going to go somewhere. You know, he really is. I would just imagine, okay, maybe, you know, when he gets rich and famous, you know, I can drive some big, nice, fancy cars. Stuff like that. So, you know, no.
Yeah, I think I was reading a article by Terry Ann Nash that's from Travis Lee, newspaper at the time, and he was saying that he had an internship at WCCO.
That's correct, because his name was out there and everybody knew him. When he was going into University of Minnesota, they wanted him to be on the air. You know, he's a good-looking guy, and they wanted him to come in and internship at WCCO, which at the time that was the station. Yes. You know, in Minneapolis, St. Paul area, and they wanted him to be a part of it. So they sent him a letter, and before he passed away, he was in the process of doing that at the WCCO.
WCCO. Whoa,
yep.
Okay.
Interning. So, yeah.
See, my thing is that he was more than a DJ.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you tell me more about the civil rights stuff that Kyle was doing?
Yeah, he was close. Spike Moss was one of the torchbearers of the civil rights community when I was growing up. And him and Kyle got really close. And they would talk about, you know, what they could do. And Spike wanted Kyle to bring that out on the radio and, you know, let the people know, you know, what's going on in the community, as well as DJing and getting people to dance and whatnot. Spike knew that Kyle had a voice, and that voice was very strong in the community, and Kyle believed that too. And so I know they were working together to get some things out in the community that needed to be said, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But he was very aware of what was going on, and you know, he was going to bring that out.
Yes. Did you ever heard of Dr. Frank Wilderson?
Yes, I have heard of him, Frank Wilderson. Yes.
He was the first black vice president of student affairs at the University of Minnesota. Mm-hmm. He wrote a letter, you know, at the funeral and saying his condolence. But the most important thing, he's got a scholarship named after
That's right. That's right. I remember that they were going to have a scholarship named in Kyle Ray's honor at the University of Minnesota for communications.
Now, did you know that?
I heard about it, but I didn't know that it was, I knew it was in process, but I didn't hear anything that had happened.
Yeah, anytime when you got something black and white, you know something was going to happen. I think that they did that. Well, we'll find out.
Okay.
But the other thing too is that, hey, the other thing that I like to know is that for me, Kyle was like the first. If it wasn't for Kyle, you wouldn't have Prince. You wouldn't have Morris. You wouldn't have Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Can you express on that?
Yeah, matter of fact, I got a story about Kyle and Prince. And I remember them in a car, Kyle and Prince gave Kyle a bunch of tapes that he had recorded on. And Kyle played some of those tapes on the radio. I wish I knew what he did with the rest of them. That would be nice. But him and Kyle were very, very close.
Okay.
Kyle was one of the first radio disc jockeys to put Prince's music on the air. And I don't have recordings of that. I wish I did. But he did. And him and Prince were very, very close. So just because of that. But yeah, he did a lot in the community where people looked up to him, but he did start as far as radio, not just spinning records, but spinning records with a voice.
Yes.
A voice that could be heard, that people gravitated to. So he was the first one to really do that. And then hip-hop came along, but he was doing hip-hop before hip-hop was even known, because it was, discos and, people playing music, but he was rapping when he DJ'd. And, it was very unique. People started following that. Absolutely. He was a pioneer in that sense.
Well, Joe, I know I'm talking so much about your youngest brother.
No. Yeah.
But can I talk about you? Tell me about you.
Well, like when I graduated from high school, I was into sports and I was, matter of fact, the story of how I got my bass guitar.
Yeah.
There was a Christmas and my mother brought Kyle a bass guitar and me a lead guitar for Christmas. Well, Kyle did something. My mother got mad, blew up and said, all right, I'm giving that bass to Joe. That's how I got my bass and started playing.
All right.
And Kyle never did pick up the guitar. He just started, doing his DJ thing. He wanted to do that anyway. Mm-hmm. But that's how I got my first bass and just started playing, with records and, playing music. And my first real band where I made money was with Willie Walker.
Okay.
And, I played with him for 10 years. And then from there, played with a group called Mind and Matter, where Jimmy Jam was the keyboard player and basically the orchestrator of all the music. We put a music on a record called Sunshine Lady, and it was Jimmy Jam's, basically. I know it's out there. And I do have a copy of it if I want one. But, so that's where I started. When Kyle was DJing, the music people that went out and saw bands, they knew who I was, but, and we had a good time, but he was out there with the younger group and, disco was coming around then at that time and everybody wanted to get into the partying, disco partying. And that's where he was like a giant, as far as, DJing and being on the radio. And, from there, I think it would have went to television, but he never got the opportunity, unfortunately.
Yeah, now I'm going to hit below the belt. For me, it's the hardest thing for me to bring up. I know that, sometimes people talk about the bad things that Kyle did. And so from that, I realized that, if you look at 99% of the positive, one, percent is always the negative. They're gonna concentrate on the negative. I just want to get this thing off the way, and we just move forward. I know that hey, everybody have made mistakes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and then Kyle had some mistakes that he made, and so from that, we have to bring that up. Yeah,
absolutely, and that was back then at those times. A lot of us made mistakes. The truth is, most of us did. But I think a lot of that. I mean, we were all kind of just trying to. With the drugs and the alcohol and all that kind of stuff, you're in that lifestyle. So sometimes you get caught up in it. But I think as we grow, we try to move away from that and just put on a more positive life. And I think Kyle did that, especially going to the University of Minnesota, where he really wasn't, he was in the life as far as after hours, because he would do parties. He would after hour parties. He would DJ the parties.
That's right.
And a lot of that stuff was going on. But as he got better at his craft and started gaining more confidence in himself. I mean, he was always confident, but as far as where he could go with his art, and I think he was moving away from that, especially with going to the University of Minnesota. I think that really changed his life.
Yes.
Going to the University of Minnesota and almost getting ready to graduate, and that's why he got that internship offer for WCCO, because they saw him too. I mean, we all go through things in our lives that we can look back on and say it was a mistake, but sometimes it shapes who we are.
Correct.
And so I know I'm better because of my past in my life. I'm a father.
Yep.
Got 7 kids, 5 girls and 2 boys.
Whoa.
5 of them were college graduates.
Oh.
And 11 grandkids. So
Man.
I think I did all right.
Yeah, you did, man. Hey, I start thinking the song. There's a story about him.
And they all like me.
Hey, that's a good thing.
That's right.
Man,
that's
shoot.
Right.
I wish my daughter loves me like that. Shoot. Yeah, I mean, I'm just playing. Yeah, but my thing is that, hey, how they say it in the Bible, when they say somebody who haven't, sinned, throw the first stone. Yeah, and I think that, hey, you're always in a position that sometimes the negative always come out before the positive.
It does, I mean, there's a lot of people that, will throw stones, but they live in glass houses.
I know that's right. Now, let's just sweep this over.
That's right.
And let's bring this back.
Yeah.
Tell me about Brother Mike Jones. He was a football player.
Oh, Mike
at
Jones
the University
was
of
great,
Minnesota.
man. Mike and Kyle were really, really close.
Okay.
And Mike and Kyle basically did more things than I did. I knew who Mike was because of Kyle. That's where I met Mike. But when he came from Detroit, man, Mike was cool. That was a good brother with a good heart, and you could see that right away. But Mike and Kyle were very close. That's where I met Mike. But, like I said, I was in the band scene at the time too, where I didn't get out, in the community like they did. But no, Mike's a good brother, man,
And what Mike did was bring the Detroit sound to Minneapolis.
Correct, where Kyle would play it.
That's right. And then Kyle, his music was being shaken up in Detroit as well.
That's right. They would exchange that, the music. And so, yeah, that was a good person for Kyle to meet, Mike Jones, because he did a lot for Kyle as far as opening him up to that Detroit music scene. So, yeah, that helped him a lot because he had music nobody else had.
That's right.
So, yeah, it was cool.
Hey, the thing that I like to know, Kyle got 2 daughters.
Yes.
And do they really, truly know how fabulous that their father was? Can you express on that?
They do. They were very young. They were like, I think Kyra might have been 4, and Kyle Alicia was 2 when, he passed away. So what we do is try to, we show the pictures, we give the history. When they're here, I mean, Kyra lives in Dallas, and his other daughter, Kyalisha, she lives here in Minnesota, but they know who he was and they know about him. We keep that alive for sure. Mm-hmm. They love their dad, even though they never really met their dad. When they were small, they did, but they didn't grow up with their dad, but they love their dad because they know what he was about. Mm-hmm. So they do have history about him.
Oh, fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I feel that this is a need for people to know. Mm-hmm. We just talked about something before we got on air, and it was like, if you don't know the root of the tree, how do you know the tree? And so what we're trying to do today is to give you the understanding of the roots, because this flamboyant, talented, gifted, loving man, Carl Ray, is a part of that root of music.
Absolutely, absolutely. And through the good and bad times that he lived, people still gravitated to him because of who he was, and he was authentic. I'll say it like that. He's very authentic in who he was, mm-hmm. and people love that about him.
Yeah, there's a young man that I have to say that I love him a great deal, and I truly love this brother, and he's almost like a super DJ, and that's Walter Q-Bear Banks. Can you express something about him?
Oh man, Walter Q-Bear. If you go golfing with Walter Q-Bear, he's always going to challenge you because he's always thinking he's going to beat you. And I love Q-Bear. In fact, Q-Bear, he's a big fisherman. He's always wanting to go fishing. I don't really go fishing, so I never went fishing with him, but I played golf with him. In fact, Q-Bear will give you the shirt off his back. He really will. He would give me golf balls, just, you got to hit them straight, Joe. I'm going to give you some balls so you can practice. Because when you play me, you're going to be playing the best. And you ain't going to come out too good after that, But I love Q-Bear, man. He's just a really good person. Yeah, that brother is like family. He really is. And I know his brother, Imwate. Yeah, good family.
I hear you, shoot.
Right.
And, I know somebody's in the audience right now, but I'd like to say what you think about Ray Seville.
Oh, Ray Seville's a real good brother. He is. Ray is, he don't shy about who he is, and Ray will give you the shirt off his back, but he will also check you if you need to be checked. Ray's a real good brother, though, man. He really is. He really is.
I would like to say about your mother, mm-hmm. I want to thank her for giving us the album to share the pictures that you will be seeing on this air, because we want to be in a position, not just saying it verbally.
Right.
You got to be in a position of knowing exactly what he looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You gave us the sound that's mm-hmm. so smooth. Is there any other things that you want to talk about?
I think we covered a lot of it, but, this is our history needs to be reported because it gives us a sense of belonging that I think a lot of our young people don't have. But there's people out here that have shaped and guided a lot of things that you see out here today, but you got to go back and see, okay, how did this start? How did this happen? Well, check your history, and there is a history, and we do have one. So sometimes you just, like you say, get the root. To get to the root of that tree,
yes,
you got to get information. You got to ask. You got to ask somebody.
That's right.
So that way you'll know. If you have a question, ask.
That's it.
You'll find the answer.
Hey, man, that's the hardest thing to tell kids today, mm-hmm. because Jesse Jackson used to say, short-term pain creates long-term pleasure. Short-term pleasure creates long-term pain. Mm-hmm. We have to understand that the stuff that we're doing right now is short-term. Mm-hmm. We always look good when we was young.
Right.
But when you get old, shoot, you can't run like you used to.
No.
You can't. It's a proud time to get old, because not that many people last that long.
No, they don't. And speaking of my mother, she's 87 years old, lives in her own apartment, does her thing, goes to church, and, God-fearing woman, but she's still healthy, and she's doing real well. So she appreciates what we're doing right now, and I still have to report back to her to let her know how it went.
What we have right now is a special guest, Mike Jones, one of the superstars, great community activist, DJ, outstanding football player for the University of Minnesota, 2000 brother, 2000 black, and I'm just honored to be a part of this with you, Joe.
Okay.
And I'm honored to be with Mike Jones, who was, after he played ball, he became a DJ with Carl Ray. And I say to you, thank you so much for giving me your time, to talk about this important issues in dealing with a legend that needs to be heard, need to be seen, and need to be in a position of people will still be talking about him, because Carl Ray was the man. Can you share a little bit more information about Carl Ray?
Yes, I was at the University of Minnesota at the time when Kyle first was out, because the students and the people at the University of Minnesota, we didn't really travel that much to North Minneapolis, but I would hear about Kyle Ray as a disc jockey, and I became a disc jockey because we really didn't have a black radio station that traveled all around the whole state. KMOJ was starting up, and Kyle was like the most popular guy as far as DJs is concerned. And when I traveled to North Minneapolis, I had a chance to meet him and found out that he was MC of most of the concerts that came locally in Minneapolis, and he was a DJ at the Foxtrot Club downtown. While after I left the University of Minnesota from playing football, but real good person, man, and he was just one of the originators, him and Pharaoh Black.
Great. The thing that got me with that, I didn't even know. You met Joe before you met Kyle. How did that work, Joe?
I'm not sure. Joe might know better than me.
Well, I think from being at the clubs and hanging out with Jimmy and Jimmy Jam, and just met Mike, just being out, because we were not a real big community. We were a big community as far as in visual, but not in numbers. But everybody knew everybody. We all knew who everybody was. So, and at the clubs, everybody knew Kyle, and everybody knew Mike for playing football. So when he started DJing, we just kind of know who people are, from the community.
Hey, Mike, is there any way you can give us a little history about you? I mean, when did you come to the University of Minnesota?
Well, I was recruited by the University of Minnesota for football, and I played football from 73 to 76, and Tony Dungy was my roommate. We met in high school. Coming from Detroit, where music was the number one thing, going from Motown and all the way up from George Clinton, Parliaments, and all those groups. So when I came to Minneapolis, that was the thing that I brought music from Detroit, because we really didn't have a station that we could turn on and listen to. So once I got here, I started playing music in my apartment. People used to come by and listen to the music, because we had people at the university who were from out of state and coming into town. And then I ran into guys like Ray Seville and Butch and some other guys that was from Minneapolis. They was young cats, but they still, was in the music, and we were bumping each other at parties and different things, because see, we was just DJing, having the ball, man, and it didn't matter what age you were. You could pop up, them guys would pop up on campus if I was DJing, or I come downtown and then I would hear Kyle Ray DJing at the club, and then Pharaoh Black at the Infinity over there off Excelsior Boulevard. So I would drive all the way on the weekend sometimes to Detroit, buy music, and then come all the way back on Sunday. That way I had music that we all could listen to, and it was just a good time, man. We had a great time together.
Man, I feel like you got goosebumps just talking about this.
I do, man. It's making me like I'm 20 again.
And we didn't have a lot of that music back in those days, back in Minneapolis, because we just didn't have it, not like they did in Detroit, obviously. And the community wasn't real large either. How many black folks went to the U when you got recruited there, Mike?
Man, I think it was only like 1.2%.
Yeah.
African American students, and then most of them were from out of state or they were from out of the country. Nigeria,
right.
People like that, and they were like of royalty. Like when they came here, they were sons and daughters of people that were princes. In their country, and they would come over here to get educated. And then North Minneapolis was a small area, and you had to go over there really to meet the people from Minneapolis, because they weren't going to University of Minnesota. University of Minnesota is Smith's school, so financial aid was tough. So we had to actually, go over there to meet them, and to St. Paul.
Yeah.
That's where I met Elmer Bailey.
Yep. And our community was small. It wasn't that large at that time. So everybody knew everybody,
Yeah, then they called it the projects over there, where KMOJ was at. But they were beautiful projects to me.
Right.
Hey, just remember, man, I'm from St. Louis, and it was like, this is the project?
Right.
Sure, this looked like our suburban neighborhood.
Yes, it does. Hey, they had grass, and we didn't.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember, when we got here, it was only like 2 hours that you just had radio of R&B, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when KMOJ came in, it just went a little bit longer and longer and longer.
Yes.
But how did Carl Ray influence you to a point where y'all became a teammate in being a DJ?
Well, I met Kyle when I went to the club down to the Fox Trap. I went to hear him because I heard about this DJ downtown that everybody was telling me that was good. So I wanted to hear him because, I was trying to get better, and I wanted to hear the music he was playing locally. So when I played it, the local people would listen and hear it, and then come to the parties that I was going to, because they got another person like them playing the same music that they like. And then we became friends, and next thing I know, he got me a job working at the Fox Trap on the off nights when he wouldn't work. The days he didn't work, I worked. And it, just domino effect. It went and got better after that.
Whoa, that's fantastic. Now I'm gonna say Jaws told me, Desi Williamson, that Carl tried out for football. Did he?
You know what? I don't remember him.
I think he did. I know he tried out for gymnastics at the
snap.
year. He did that too.
Yeah.
But football, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure because, I'm trying to play because I'm all 700 miles away from school, and I want the people in Detroit to know that, even though I came to Minnesota, I was one of the first ones that, hey, Mike is in Minnesota, and then get a chance, if we ever got on TV, that I would play, so I tried to do my best in practice so that I could get in the game.
Oh, fantastic.
And, that's how it was for me. Yeah.
Brother, is there any other things that you want to say about Carl Ray?
Other than he was a good guy, man, and he always was open for conversation. He would let me sit in the DJ booth with him and talk whenever I was down there because I don't know, we just hit it off right away.
Hey,
man.
Mike, I'm gonna let you hear something real quick that you probably ain't gonna remember.
From KUXL Radio, #1 in the nation, taking you off into the sound of the Super DJ theme song, Ohio Players Contradiction. We call it the Hoochie Coo.
believe that?
That'll take you back.
Man, that voice made me smile so big, man. Oh man,
Yes.
yeah, man. Cause see, you know, besides being a disc jockey myself, see, there's a difference between the disc jockey and the sound engineer
Mm-hmm.
and a radio personality. Kyle was all of that. You know, he could entertain you by talking. He could entertain you by playing music, and then you know, it helped for him being a handsome young man. You know, all the women was like, "Kyle
man.
Ray,
I was jealous, man. I'll be honest. I was jealous. They was all after him. I said, what happened to me? Wait a minute.
Kyle had the magic touch.
Man. Yes, he
was
did.
just, people just would smile when you're around Kyle, man. Just that's how he was. He was just a good person, man. You know, when you got a good heart, people gravitate to you, and that's the thing, man. I'm 700 miles away. And I got the football team as my friends, but other than that, you know, we was like, wow, where are the other people at? You know, and they was like, y'all go to the university, y'all not gonna go up here. And I was like, man, I came over there. I ended up playing basketball at the center, and I ended up meeting Randy Stanton and Spike Moss, and that was it. And then I got cool with them, and then I was with Kyle, and man, that was it for me.
Brother, I just want to say, man, thank you so much for your time, man, and I really appreciate this. And I just want to say to you right now, Joe, man, hey, we miss him.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and we want you to be in a position to understand that, hey, we got to keep this on.
Yeah.
We got to make sure that people know history. And one of those historic events, historic person, is your brother, Carl Ray.
Mm-hmm.
All right, brothers. Thank y'all so much, and sisters, thank you so much. And I'd like to say thank you for the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder to give us the opportunity to do this presentation. Thank you, and have a blessed night. Bye-bye.